Hey, I'm Paul again, and in this video we are going to discuss how in the world are people signing estate planning legal documents, particularly after they've been tested positive, for the coronavirus. All right, so there is a kind of a heightened sense of estate planning out there for some people. In the last 3 weeks or so, I've dealt with people who have been tested positive for the coronavirus and they thought they were going to die. And then I've dealt with a number of people who have had very poor immune systems and they don't want to get out of the house and they don't want anybody coming into their house. And then on a side note, I've also dealt with people who, because they're business owners, for example, whose businesses have either significantly slowed or shut down, they fear losing everything they have and going bankrupt, and they want to try to figure out how to protect what they have. So those are the kinds of issues that I've been dealing with for the last 3 weeks. I thought I'd share maybe how we've been handling some of those issues, and so you may have a better understanding in your particular circumstances how to move forward. Okay. As far as the kind of getting estate planning done, the problem is that most estate planning legal documents, at least the ones in my state of Louisiana, to make them valid and effective, they must be signed and they must be notarized by a notary who is typically the lawyer, and they also must be witnessed by two people who generally must be non-related to the person who's signing the documents. And like I said before, the elderly, they don't want to leave their home, they don't want anybody coming in their home, and they certainly don't want to drive to a law office. And I will tell you, 100% of them, when they pick up the phone and they reach out to us, they want it done now. When we give them the option, hey, we can get some things started and we can do all of the signing and all of that once the stay-at-home order expires and things settle down, or we can talk about what it's going to take to get things signed now. Which would you prefer? 100%, we want it done now. And so we've had to kind of be a little bit creative on that, because really in estate planning, nothing is official until it's executed properly and under the valid statutory requirements. I think some people think, hey, if I just tell the attorney what I want, even though it's not signed, then that's good enough, and that ain't good enough. All right, to exacerbate this problem on getting estate planning legal documents signed, estate planning documents, not always, but they're often contested. And when somebody looks to contest an estate planning legal document, one of the things they look for is were the validity or the statutory validity requirements met, when the person signed their document. So let me give you an example. One of the first ones I did where the coronavirus was a mess, gentleman was in poor health. He had not been tested and didn't have any of the coronavirus symptoms, but he was in poor health and he was self-quarantined. Nobody comes in the house, nobody leaves the house, he's not going anywhere, and he wanted his stuff done, and he wanted that peace of mind. So yeah, real easy to have the conversations on the phone, and even the elderly, they're very comfortable putting their phone on the speakerphone. Most of them have smartphones and iPhones these days, so real easy. They get on the speakerphone when we start talking about some of the decisions that they need to make. And that part is pretty simple to get through, where we do this, teleconferencing. Not all the elderly people are quite up to speed on some of the teleconferencing, Zoom and some of the stuff where you have to have a computer with a video camera on it. But I find they're all 100% comfortable with putting their iPhone on the speakerphone and having conversations that way. So, and then they're also, because they want it done now, they're very comfortable. Everybody uses email these days. Drafting everything, sending it by email, having them review it, and then it's time maybe to get some questions answered. All that done by telephone. All that is a piece of cake. But then it came time to sign all of the documents. And so in this case, it was early on, and really masks and gloves were not a thing. But we did do it out on the back patio. I never went inside the house, drove up my car up the driveway. They had some neighbors come by. Everybody, social distancing was a thing, so everybody kept their 6 feet. And, he signed the documents, and, we had all the sign here little tabs on there, so making it easy. So that one got done, and good thing it was, we were able to give him that peace of mind. Another example was a little more challenging. A gentleman had been tested positive, had all the symptoms, had the fever, had the cough, went and got tested positive, thought he was going to die. That in his words, he thought he was going to die. And he had no estate planning in place. He owned part of a business, very, very important for him, that if he were to pass away, he didn't want his wife having any difficulty continuing to get the revenue from the business, and so didn't want all of that stuff frozen, and didn't want his wife to have to go through the courts, which, by the way, are closed right now, to gain access to what he had. So, we had to make, I had to make a decision. Do I want to help this guy? And obviously, as I think about now, all the healthcare workers, the nurses, and all those who are just on the front lines, I'm like, I got to figure out a way to help this guy. So we talked through it, and really he and his wife were more cautious than I was. But sure enough, we had all the conversations by telephone, by speakerphone, got everything prepared, emailed it for review. He had a couple of concerns. We were able to talk about all of that on the telephone, email a little bit back and forth, made revisions, email, piece of cake. Now it got time to sign, so that one was tricky. And again, our signing, it's always been, I've always had a beef with our signing requirements, because most of these documents have to be notarized and witnessed by 2 people, where some people who have retirement accounts, they can go online and change their beneficiaries of who's going to get their $5 million IRA. But if they want to leave their roll of Scotch tape to their nephew, they got to get lawyers and witnesses together to do that. But that's another story. So maybe we could go from notary and 2 witnesses to maybe notary and 1 witness. Let's start with that. But nonetheless, it is what it is. So what we did was, when it came down to time to sign, yes, we put the sign here tabs on everything. Me and my wife, actually, we drove to their house. We drove up the driveway. My wife stayed in the car so she could see everything. They had one of those folding rectangular plastic tables laid out. They had wiped it all down. They had a chair with a towel over it. I don't know why the towel was over it, but they did. And one of their neighbors was going to be one of the witnesses, and he was sitting in his car on the street, right in front of their house. So I got all the documents out, put them on the table. Fortunately, it wasn't a very windy day, and then I had mask and gloves. Gentleman came out. Fortunately, it was a day when his symptoms were starting to go away. It was the first day where he did not have fever, and he walked out. As he was walking out in his mask and gloves, he's like, "Oh my goodness, he had blue jeans on. My pants are falling down because I lost so much weight." I think he lost about 10 or 12 pounds. He said as a side effect of having the coronavirus. And so he did. He had his pen. In fact, everybody had their own pen ready. He sat in the chair. He signed, gloves on, mask on. Sign, flip the document over, sign, flip the document over, sign, flip over. Took him 2-3 minutes. Then his wife, same thing. She, they were quarantined in their house. I think he was upstairs and she was downstairs. So then she came out, same thing, mask, gloves, sign, flip over, sign, flip over. Witness who was in the street but could see everything, came up, mask, gloves, sign on the witness line, flip, sign, flip, sign, flip. And then we got all the documents, put them in a plastic bin that I had brought, and just closed the bin, put it in the back hatch of our vehicle. And when we got home, I took that plastic bin and put it in the garage and just let it sit for a couple of days. I have a doctor buddy who I walk with around the neighborhood a lot, and he was kind of coaching me through everything. He was real helpful. And then my wife signed as a witness because she saw the whole thing in the car. I signed as the notary. So it was tricky, and it's tough that we got to go through all that, but that's what we had to do. He had tested positive, and I want to thank him and his wife for being so cautious and looking after everybody else. So that was really the only one where I had to go through all of this with someone who had tested positive for the coronavirus. And then there have been others where I had another couple I've been working with for several weeks. They're not elderly and they're not that high risk. They're maybe 60 and good health, but they wanted to get things done, and it was important for them to get things done. So they were willing to come into the office. But, just the old days, it's not that right now. I think people would have an expectation of coming into the office, lots of handshakes, and in some cases hugs. You sit down at the little table and you chat, and, but not right now. So it's just nice to see so much, everybody on such a heightened alert. So this couple came in, and documents were already laid out on the table. They had their pen in hand. I had some pens kind of on the table in case they needed them, and I was going to say sign and just take your pen with you. And they came in, pen in hand. Of course, no handshake, no nothing. They nobody even sat down. But they wanted to get it done, so they kind of walked straight into the room where the documents were laid out on the table. Sign, flip, sign, flip. And they're out of there. Friends of mine, so we had to chit chat for a minute from a far distance. But that was the way we did it in the office there. So that's how that worked. Okay, so where does all that lead us in the future? Couple of comments here. Of all the pain and suffering from the coronavirus, there are going to be some good business things that come out of this. I think in general, people are going to be okay with handling many of the estate planning, the legal, the financial, the accounting matters through phone, through email, through teleconferencing. I kind of hope gone are the days where, and this would happen in our office frequently, especially, I don't mean to pigeonhole you, but the older folks, we'll get calls, and my secretary or paralegal or administrative assistant will take the call, and it'll be maybe an older gentleman, maybe he's 80, 85, and he'll say, I need to schedule a meeting with Mr. Rabalais because I need to come in to discuss how we're going to use our daughter's maiden name as the second name in our legal documents instead of us using her middle name. So we need to set up a meeting so we can come telling that and point out the 7 places in the draft where we want to kind of change how we list the full name of our daughter. And in our office, we'd be, well, you just told us. Why do we have to have a meeting? And I'm exaggerating just a little bit. But I've had way in my career too many unnecessary meetings where things could have been handled with a phone call or an email. So I'm looking forward to those really unnecessary face-to-face meetings, kind of going by the wayside, because that older couple right now, they are more than happy to handle all of those things by phone and by email. In fact, they insist on it. So we're going to see, a trend there. What we're also going to see is attorneys are going to start liking the idea of working remotely. And I started doing it several months ago when our 5th child moved out of the house, went off to college in the fall. Of course, she's back here, of course, and will be for months. But nonetheless, started working a lot more from home, doing a lot of the email and the phone stuff by home, making all these videos here in my home, and then having to go into the office for meetings. That is particularly for signing meetings, where you just have to have people present when people are signing their legal documents. We'll see what kind of advances we have, and really it's a state-by-state issue as far as what are the validity requirements to make estate planning documents legal. Now I feel like it's too cumbersome. Yeah, a few states are looking into this virtual stuff. And I know in one state, you know, you've got to hold up each piece of paper to the video conferencing thing. And in other states, you've got to do all this stuff by video and store the video. And it's really more cumbersome to do that than to get people physically present. So we'll see how things might change in the future. One project I'm working on, because there are some people out there just with nothing in place, parents with minor children, older couples that just never got around to doing any kind of estate planning. I know I think it's 26 states, you can handwrite your own will, and in simple circumstances, as long as you have the right guidance, you can do it that way. There's no notary and there's no witness requirement. So I'm building a website, it's not ready yet, called validhandwrittenwills.com, that's going to teach people how to write their own handwritten will, do it quickly, no notary, no witnesses requirement, and can give some people that peace of mind that they want to know that they've left things, you know, the right way and avoided, you know, their state dictating how their things will go when they pass away. So happy to hear your comments on, you know, this kind of stuff, getting things done. A lot of issues here. The whole signing process, what state rules are on, validity requirements. Whether during this time it's created a heightened sense of awareness on estate planning. Love to hear your comments on that. Also, love to see you smash the like button so that the YouTube algorithms will start digging our YouTube videos even more. Y'all stay safe, wash your hands, keep your social distancing, and I'm looking forward to coming out of this stuff and moving on. I'm the optimist guy who always feels like the glass is half full. All right, we'll see you next time.